Hey everybody, welcome to Unpredictable. I have made other podcasts before, but this is the first podcast that will be out there for you guys to hear. So, the reason behind the name is because this podcast is going to be full of different subjects like life stories, fun conversations, controversial subjects, kind of a little bit of everything. So, why am I doing this podcast? I really, really love to talk, and I would love the excuse to be able to sit down with different guests and hear about their life stories and what God has done through them with their different seasons of life. I didn't really know what to do for the first podcast, but I decided to do a life story of me since this is my first podcast episode, and since I'm starting something new, and then you have a little bit of knowledge of who I am. So I'm Karina Moss, and I am 20 years old, and my birthday is January 19, 2002. So starting at the very beginning, I am actually adopted. I am originally from Russia, and my parents, Wanda and Ruben Lapp, adopted me. I was no older than one, but I don't know what month, that they adopted me or how many months I was. But I have 6 siblings. Connie is the oldest. She married Milford Yoder, and they have 4 kids. And then next is Jana. She married Josh Martin, and they have 4 kids and 1 on the way. So that's exciting. And then Jared, he married LaDawn Yoder. They have 3 kids, and we just found out that they have 1 on the way. So that's really, really exciting. Then Aaron and Andrea Schrock, they have 4 kids. Then Jesse and Lexi, so sorry Lexi, if you ever hear this. I do not know your last name. That's really, really bad, but I don't. They have 1 kid. And then there's Kirsten. She's my younger sister. Actually, get this. She was also adopted from Russia. They adopted us at different times from different cities in Russia, I guess. I just recently got married, like 3 months ago, literally. So that is why I kind of stumbled on the last name, because I still accidentally sometimes call myself a Lapp. But his side of the family, by the way, my husband's name is Tyrell. I did not say that. So Tyrell's parents are Diane and Sheldon Most. His older sister is Brianna. She married Kyle. And then Morgan and Trevor, they actually just recently went to Rosedale for some college courses. And then Sierra and Brian, they just had a baby not too long ago. And then Tyrell, which is my husband, we're married. And then Brian, and then Ani. Those are his 2 younger siblings. Brian, he actually just moved out to Morgantown. And then Ani still lives at home with her parents. Anyways, growing up, literally, I feel like I had the best childhood ever. I hung out a ton with my cousins. My main cousins I hung out with whenever I was younger was my sister Kirsten and then Janessa. Lizzie also hung out with us a decent amount. Lyndon hung out with us some. But that was my main group of friends growing up. We swam all the time. Janessa's parents actually had a pond like right below their house, and we just swam all the time in the summer. And then we built forts a lot. Janessa's grandpa actually helped us with one. That was really, really fun. And then also, we didn't build a clubhouse. We kind of like refurbished one. That was really fun. We had just a lot of hangout nights, movie nights, and that continued as we got older. Lyndon sisters, Lucinda and Lavonda, they started hanging out with us a lot, and Tyler Yoder joined our crew as well. And us cousins hung out all the time, had movie nights, hangout nights, game nights, whatever. It was a ton of fun. Then school, I went to Mountain View Christian School. That was fun. I actually went there in 2nd grade. I went to Bittinger Mennonite School for my 1st grade year, but then some of us moved to Mountain View Christian School while I was in my 2nd grade. So that was new and very scary, but actually the summer in between those, like between 1st grade and 2nd grade, we were at a park. My brother played softball. Actually, a lot of my brothers played softball for the church league. Went to Pillar Mennonite Church. And while we were there, my sister threw sand on this one girl. And I guess it hurt her. And I was like, did that actually hurt you? And this little girl was Emma. And I saw her whenever I went to school in Mountain View, and we became best friends. And we're still best friends. We've been best friends ever since. I don't know what I would have done at school without her. We always did everything together. So I was very happy for her. We both were procrastinators in school. I remember a lot of, like, in high school, if you wanted to go on honor roll, obviously, I mean, this was for all the time. But as a younger kid, you're always wanting to get your schoolwork done so you can go on honor roll. But in high school, we did not really, and we ended up staying at the school a lot for honor rolls and just doing schoolwork there at the school together by ourselves. Not a ton happened in school, just normal school stuff, boy stuff. Oh, in high school at Mountain View, you get to go to volleyball tournaments if you play volleyball, which is what I did. And you also go to, like, a regional convention, and then internationals they go to, like, every 2 years. So I got to go to that in my freshman year. So those were some really, really cool experiences in high school. Being able to sing and play volleyball, and yeah, that was really fun. And then, yeah, I told you I got married. So anyways, that's kind of the gist overview of my life. The big events that probably affected me the most was the first one. It was right at the end of 8th grade. Our school has a talent day, and we do all kinds of contests, like athletic stuff, and then baking, or like drawing, or taking pictures, or stuff like that. So the one evening I was getting ready for that, and I was baking something, and I had to go out and feed the animals. So I asked my mom if she could watch my stuff while I quickly go do that. And on my way back in, all of a sudden I see my sister Kirsten running out, and she's like, Karina, mom's on the floor, she fell, dad's yelling at her, she's not responding, and nobody knows what happened. So I run inside, and I see my mom just laying there on the floor. She was, like, turning purple almost. And my dad was trying to get her to respond, and she just was not responding. And thankfully, my sister Jana actually was there. She was like, all right, girls, why don't you just go out to the other part of the house? I need to make some phone calls. And so we just stayed out there for a little bit. And she ended up sending us to one of my aunt and uncle's houses while they were taking care of my mom. So yeah, that was a crazy turn of events that night. Yeah, it was literally like just a super chill evening, just hanging out with Jana and her kid, and then also just getting ready for talent day. So that was very, very unexpected and a very traumatic evening. We came back to the house once they had gotten mom into the ambulance, and I just remember tons and tons of cars were there when we got there, and a ton of family stayed there that evening through the night. And yeah, a bunch of us cousins actually turned on a movie and stayed by our side. And that was really nice. Lavonda, I think Janessa helped Kirsten through a lot of it. And then actually my cousin Christopher helped me through a lot of it. Really, I'm always just like, you know what? It's fine. Nothing bad is gonna happen. It's totally fine. And so I didn't really know the depth of what we were dealing with. And I did have a conversation with my brother-in-law, Josh, and I think Andrea. And they were just like, because I was planning on going to school the next day. I was like, hey, like, can I still go to school and take all my stuff there? And they're like, you're not going to want to go to school tomorrow because this really does not look good. And nobody was telling me what was going on at the time, because I was like 14, 15 years old at the time. They didn't want to scare me. Like, I was old enough to know what was happening, but also old enough to know the full extent of what was going on. But I was also 14, 15 years old, and so it would scare the tar out of me. I remember feeling sick, and I could not sleep that night, and sometime that night I did end up falling asleep, and I remember waking up and just remembering that it's still happening. And Josh came and sat beside me that morning, and we both just sat there and just felt so sick and just didn't even really talk because we were both just still in shock. So that was a crazy, crazy turn of events. Actually, in a week's time, they saw an insane improvement. They said it was a miracle. It was insane how many people were praying for my mom. I'm like, people literally across the world were praying. 2 weeks later, she was out of the hospital and she recovered. But because of that event, I was completely in shock that Christ would ever do that to anyone. And I was very hurt, and I just didn't really want anything to do with Christ. And a couple months later, whenever I guess my mom was like able to be normal and stuff like that, like I told her, I was like, you know what? I haven't prayed since that all happened, and I just kind of want nothing to do with Christ. And she was like, you're looking at this the totally wrong way. Like, God could have taken me away from you guys, but he knew you guys weren't ready for me to be gone yet, and so he sent me back and let me live. I was like, wow, yeah, that's a very true statement. And so I feel like it was a very real but like also good growing experience for my spiritual life. Then that was in between 8th grade and 9th grade. And then I think in like 10th or 11th grade, I actually went on a mission trip to Guatemala. One of the guys in my youth group told me that he was going, and he was like, hey, you should actually see if you could go. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And so I ended up going and meeting a bunch of new people. I was terrified and homesick, and it literally took everything in me not to cry the entire way of traveling to Guatemala, just because I didn't like, even the guy that went to youth group, like we weren't super, super close at all. And so, yeah, I didn't really know anyone well at all going on that trip. So that was a huge growing experience for me, getting out of my comfort zone. But it was good. I enjoyed it. We went to it's not an orphanage. It's kind of just like a place for kids of all ages to stay. They spoke Spanish, and I like know nothing in the Spanish language. So that was difficult, but it was really fun. Then the next probably big event was COVID. That actually happened in my 12th grade year. So did most of school at school in my 12th grade year, but then COVID hit and we were homeschooled. And actually, I loved it. I loved homeschooling, and that was really, really fun. And I had no idea that COVID would turn me into an introvert. It was so weird. Like, the only people I would hang out with is my family that was there at the house, and then sometimes cousins would come every once in a while. Work was shut down, school was shut down, and so I was just at home, and I turned into a total introvert. And then whenever things started opening back up, I went back to work the one day, and this girl, Brooke was her name, Brooke Bender, she just kept asking me question after question after question, and I was just so awkward. I like answered her, but that was it. Like, I didn't keep the conversations going because I just felt so weird. And then during that time, actually, I ended up leaving my church, and yeah, I just felt like God wanted me to do, I just felt like he had something out there for me. And so this girl actually that I met, I told her, she asked me, I think, about church or something, and I told her kind of what was going on. She was like, hey, you could come to church with me. And so she introduced me to Crossroads Church and also to Cherry Glade Church. And so I went to both churches with her a couple times. And then she also invited me to Cherry Glade's youth group. And she was actually having a Christmas party there at her house, and she invited a bunch of different people. She also worked at the bakery, which my cousin's parents own, Rachel and Glenn. They own the Rolling Pin Bakery. So she knew Jeffrey and Janessa, and so she invited them as well. So a bunch of us cousins could go together. And it was a small group, but I mean, I was still so awkward and not good with meeting new people. And the party was going on, and it was totally fine. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people walked in. And lo and behold, it was people from Guatemala that I have known of and seen here and there, but I don't know. And that was so awkward. And like that, we were all older now, and yeah, I just remember it was really, really awkward. And Brian, who is now my brother-in-law, he was super outgoing. He just talked and talked and talked to us, and we were all, especially me, I was just like, I have no idea who this dude is, but he's talking to me a lot, and I feel really awkward, but yeah, it was good. So yeah, meeting some of those new people, they also went to Cherry Glade, and so they invited me to church and stuff, and I would go with them. And all of a sudden, people started asking me if I like Tyrell. And I was like, no, guys, like, I don't know why you think that. And we met in December and started dating in March. A year later, a year and a day later, he proposed. And we got married 3 months later. 3 months later, after our wedding, here we are making a podcast. So yeah, the past like year, 2 years of my life has been a huge change, but I love it. And I'm loving life, loving married life, love having like my own house. We have a 1 bedroom trailer, so it's pretty small, but I love our trailer. It is so cozy and I just love it. So that is me, and this is my first podcast episode. So yeah, the next one I'm doing is it's going to be called Unpopular Opinions. So if you guys have any ideas of what you want to put in there, feel free to DM me. My Instagram is unpredictable. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you guys next time.